Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's launch. My name is Anthony Capello and I'm from Publishing. We're delighted to have this as our latest publication, Freedom and Fallacy, edited by Miranda and Meagan. And to launch tonight's book, we're delighted to have Sheila Jeffreys. Professor Jeffreys at the University of Melbourne. She's an internationally renowned scholar in the field of gender and sexuality. She's authored numerous books, and back in 1987 at a conference in which she was a keynote speaker, the term was coined the sexual liberals and the attack on feminism. And it was this work of the women at that conference that was in part, as has inspired this volume here tonight. We're delighted to have Sheila launch tonight's book, so please make her feel welcome as she launches.
Bittersweet for me to be sort of introduced as a professor here, since I'm retiring in only 3 months. But you know, I am here at the moment. I am. Me. Okay, so it's absolutely delightful for me to be invited by Miranda and Meagan to launch this book, because I couldn't think of anything that would be more delightful to launch. I have to say, you know how lovely it is, because of course I imagine this is but the tip of an iceberg of a sort of a burgeoning, wonderful, radical feminism in this country and in Melbourne. I will have missed the wave. Sad, but probably true. Now, as Anthony mentioned, one of the inspirations supposedly for this book was the 1987, the book from the 1987 conference, The Sexual Liberals and the Attack on Feminism. And I am pleased to say that the name of that conference was supposedly came from me. I think it does say that in the book somewhere, because I was in America at the time, or a year before, talking a lot with New York Women Against Pornography, who set up the conference. Now, the book, the original book, is about the way that the forces of sexual liberalism and the men's sexual freedom movement assailed feminist activism against pornography and sexual violence in the early 1980s. Now, between then, the 1980s and now, between that book and now, there was, of course, the death of feminism. I'm sorry to say, what else can I call it? And now I am hoping a rebirth, or a disinterment, or something of that kind. Now, the earlier book came from the 1987 conference in New York with that title. I spoke at that conference along with Andrea Dworkin, Catherine McKinnon, Susan Brown-Miller, and many, many others. And I believe, did you actually do a little flyer? Ooh. Yes, the recordings of those talks are now online.
High-tech stuff, yeah.
On the Coalition Against Trafficking in Women Australia website. So you can actually hear what I said at that time and what I was astonished by myself. I made so everybody was roaring with laughter, because of course I never listened to these things. I always think I'll be so embarrassed. I listened to it after 30 years and everybody's rolling in the aisle. It was a really exciting event at the time. There was huge energy there, and there had to be a spillover room, I remember, because women could not get into the hall. I mean, it was pretty extraordinary and exciting. So many women wanted to be there, because it was the height of the so-called sex wars, as they were called. The so-called sex wars in the mid-1980s were a situation in which the defenders of pornography and prostitution attacked the radical feminist campaigns against pornography and against men's sexual violence against women. And the sexual liberals who launched those campaigns said that we, radical feminists, were anti-sex, because their understanding of sex was it was about power and so on. And that we were victim feminists, meaning that we concentrated on seeing women as the victims of male violence, when we should focus on how women can have more pleasure in sex. In fact, a volume from that time, 1984, was called Pleasure and Danger. Oh, there may have been a bit of danger, but mainly there was pleasure for women in the exciting sexual battlefield that they ventured out into in every. Now, we wanted to alter that battlefield, it's fair to say. But the sexual liberals were very organised in the US against the possibility of laws, for instance, to restrain the porn industry. But at the conference in '87, we all felt so high. We felt we could actually be successful. And the sexual liberals, we felt, could be defeated. We could make progress at changing the sexual culture entirely and ending men's violence against women. I think we were very optimistic for that brief moment. However, it was not to be. I think we'd underestimated the extent to which the sexual liberals within feminism represented the vested interests of male domination. They had a huge clout behind them of the sex industry and all of the money of the sex industry. and the men's organised political might in support of their interests in sexually abusing women. They had mainly the organised left behind them, as they do now, the Green Party in this state and so on. The left is hugely organised around delivering easy access for men to sexually abuse women, unfortunately. So that the left is quite a serious foe in this respect. So the sexual liberals were actually a Trojan horse that the forces of a male domination unleashed within feminism. They were the visible tip of a huge iceberg of male power, and they were successful. They were also combined with the development of a regressive politics of neoliberalism, which told everyone they were consuming individuals and destroyed the idea of political movements. And the sexual liberals successfully defended men's sexual rights, and feminism pretty much disappeared from the political map, I would say, about 10 years ago, pretty much. Their success is everywhere revealed in today's political landscape, where the sex industry has thrived beyond our imaginations and dictates the appearance of women in public space, which areas of their body they should reveal, the height of their heels, and so on. It desecrates public space with pornographic advertising. The sex industry determines the forms the music and entertainment industries take. It determines what women and girls should wear, including t-shirts for babies with slogans such as, this is one I show to my students, "I tore my mom a new home." So that is the reach of the sex industry presently. The sex wars were won by the sex industry, and it's doing really, really well. It has changed the political map for women and the situation in which women live. And the latest evidence of the victory of sexual liberalism is the promotion of 50 Shades of Grey, the movie, of course, which detailed the reduction of a woman to sexual slavery. And indeed, in The Guardian a couple of weeks ago, there was a blog post which suggested that the film indicated that sadomasochists are a sexual minority whose time has come. Who knew it wasn't already here? Now, back in 1984, I formed with other lesbians a group called LASM, Lesbians Against Sadomasochism, in London, to fight the promotion of lesbian porn and sadomasochism in the lesbian community. At that time, sadomasochism was not openly promoted and creating the language and practice of everyday heterosexuality, as it is now. And we tried to stop that happening. But again, we were unsuccessful. We thought we could make a difference and prevent the normalization of the practice of sadomasochism as simply what sex is. Imagine, in the 70s and 80s, we thought feminism could successfully transform patriarchal culture and make the world safe for women. So that is why I'm so delighted that this book is here. It represents the work of many young, new wave feminists, as well as a few women who've been around a bit longer. And these young women are railing against the sordid degradation and violence that sexual liberalism and the release of men's sexual freedom have brought to women here and now. And it's wonderful to hear their voices. And it makes it possible to dream that this time our progress will be less easy to halt.
Now to respond, we have both the editors, but also let me acknowledge some of the contributors who are here tonight. Of course, the editors, Miranda and Meagan. We also have Helen Pringle, I hope is here tonight. She's on her way, but she's coming. Natalie Jovanovski, hopefully I pronounced her name right. Camille Nurka, Caroline, Norma, Kate, and Laura McNally. So thank you for they're all here tonight. And when you buy your book, make sure you get their signature as well. Now, the two editors here tonight is Miranda Kirley and Meagan Tyler. Now, Miranda is an editor, writer, and a law tutor. She's contributed to various chapters, mainly with conical titles. She is worked in federal politics as a speechwriter and researcher. Meagan Tyler is Vice Chancellor, Research Fellow at RMIT. She has published numerous journals, and her previous book, Selling Sex Short, was published in 2011. So please let me welcome the two editors.
Thank you. Well, we almost need a spillover room like you did in 1987, like close. But maybe not quite. But I've got a lot of thank yous to start off with, really. First of all, to Miranda. It was her idea, so she came to me what seems like forever ago now, but it was only really months ago. for an idea for an edited collection, and we kind of went from there, and she poked and prodded me along the way every time something needed to be done, which I'm very, very grateful for. To Anthony for his support as well throughout, despite, as we've written in the acknowledgements, his bafflement at a lot of our content. I'd really like to thank Sheila for so generously agreeing to launch this for us tonight. I don't know if you've realised, but I've been lucky enough to work with you for a decade now, and I'm really glad we had the opportunity to do this together before you up and leave us for Blighty in a few months. I also, a huge thanks to all of the contributors. Not all of them can be here, but you gave us such great material to work with. We've got so many different issues covered in this book, it's quite extraordinary. Pornography, sexual harassment, female genital mutilation, corporate social responsibility, sexual violence, heterosexuality, marriage trafficking, prostitution, and neoliberalism, and that is not even an exhaustive list. So if there's anything you're interested in, it's in there somewhere. We are very fortunate to have a number of contributors here, though. Anthony's already kindly thanked you. But a special shout out to Laura and Helen, if she does make it, who travelled interstate, which is very kind of you. So we do have a high number of Australian contributors, which I'm really proud of. I've heard many times over the years that there are no young women writing good, sturdy feminism in this country, but I'm happy to say we certainly found quite a few. I hope you look forward to reading them as much as I enjoyed editing them. We've also got contributors though from the US, from Canada, from the UK and Scandinavia, and while I wouldn't say we all share exactly the same perspective, what we really did share was an intense frustration with what passes for feminism in much of the mainstream media at the moment. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but Jessica Valenti's piece in The Guardian today is an excellent example about the joys of commodifying breast milk in the name of women's choice. It's almost as though she wrote it just to kind of prove our point. It was really thoughtful for her to do that today on the day of the launch. And I'm really, really glad that we're launching it today because I was very depressed last week. There was understandably a lot of anger swirling around about the appalling rates of violence against women in this country and how little those in the public eye seem to know about those rates and who's responsible for them. So I went to an event where I thought we could put that anger to good use, and we gathered together in a park. It was supposed to be an act of resistance, but also an act of mourning. So I winced when I saw a couple posing for a selfie, grinning while holding a sign that said, "Make the murders stop," with huge smiles. There was kind of this emphasis on making the event fun. And I thought that's what we hear all the time. Make it fun, make it appealing. And I don't think we require that of other movements for civil rights and liberation. It's the political equivalent of saying, "Give us a smile, love." Now, I'm aware that this isn't exactly the greatest recruiting line in the world, but why on earth should fighting against the tide of misogyny and male violence be fun? Who's the fun for? Is it a performance for the media? Is it an attempt to persuade those who are maybe unsure if women are full beings worthy of their consideration by having balloons and bouncy castles at events? It's just not going to work. So I love this quote from Andrew Dworkin, actually. I've got it blown up. It's in the book. I find it hopeful in some ways. I'm a feminist, but not the fun kind. That begins our chapters in there. I've got several of those, but who wants to take them away? I've got ones you can frame, have up in the living room. But in a strange way, it does give me hope that we can reclaim a feminism that doesn't have to apologise for being branded badly or not appealing to everyone at all times on all issues. A feminism that doesn't reduce everything to individual choice just so as not to inadvertently offend anyone at all, ever. And maybe fun has its place, but to quote Dworkin again, I have a really strong belief that any movement needs both radicals and liberals. You always need women who can walk into the room in the right way, talk in the right tone of voice, but you also need a bottom line. She felt like she was the bottom line, and I sincerely hope that this book helps reinforce that bottom line in conversations about feminism, both in Australia and beyond. So finally, I'd really like to charge our glasses and thank you all for being part of this. Thank you so much for coming. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you so much for that, Meagan, and also thank you very much, Sheila Jeffreys. To have you launch our book is an absolute honour, and we know it's one of your last major events you'll be having in Australia. So you might not be part of the next wave in Australia, but you certainly started it, and we'll be forever grateful for you for that.
I did my best.
And you did it well. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm usually on the other side of the fence. I'm the one who chairs these things and interviews and asks the questions. So it's strange to actually be up here in my own capacity voicing my own opinions. But I think what has been said so far has so articulately expressed my own thoughts and Meagan's thoughts through Sheila and through the book. So there's not too much I want to say other than thank you so much all for being here. I mean, what a terrific endorsement of something that we're constantly told is not popular because it's not fun, it's not sexy in the same way that other brands of feminism are. But this is an important work and it means the world to have your support. So once again, I'd like to thank Professor Sheila Jeffreys, Dr. Meagan Tyler, and also once again would like to mention the contributors, Kate Farher, Natalie Jovanovski, Dr. Shakira Hussain, Dr. Camille Nurka, Dr. Helen Pringle, Dr. Caroline Norma, and Laura McNally. I hope I haven't missed anyone. Oh, hello, Laura. And I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Melinda Tankard-Rees, who made it all the way down from Canberra to be here. Thank you very much for being here. And also Professor Charlotte Yates. And one last acknowledgement, I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of former Senator Julian McGarren. Thank you very much all for being here this evening. Please feel free to buy a book and we'll sign your copies, and join us downstairs for dinner at Dimatina's, and thank you again. Bye.